So if you know me, then you know that I love when we get reveals for Lego Technic. I don't usually cover reveals on this channel except for Technic, and it's not because like I am a big fan of Technic. I like it fine. I definitely have my thoughts on the direction it's going, but that's a different video. However, what I'm primarily looking for is new parts because I just love when we get new parts in Technic, and also more primarily new recolors of parts in Technic. And 2026 looks like it is going to be a boon. There's so much. There's so many recolors here. So we're going to be taking a look at the 2026 January and I think March sets. Maybe I missed one or two. If I did, let me know that down in the comments. And while you're down there, be sure to subscribe. It helps out the channel. Let me know your thoughts on this video. And without further ado, let's go ahead and hop over into the reveals, starting with this set right here. This is the NASA Artemis Space Launch System rocket. And this is an interesting set because I'm not the world's biggest fan of displays, which it does feel like oftentimes Technic is getting more and more heavily into displays as sets. However, it makes sense for this set, I think, in particular, because this is a simulated takeoff. And I really love that. The actual functionality of the set is really cool. Now, I will say the set does suffer from it for one reason, which we'll get to in a moment. Thankfully, it's not the world's most expensive set. In fact, the price per parts here is really good. I think it's $60 for 632 pieces, which is pretty cool, and comes with those little NASA figures, which are very cute as well. But the actual functionality, the main functionality of this, and I didn't pull up a video for this because I felt like it's not really my content to share necessarily, but you turn a crank off to the side of the platform, right? The launch pad there. The rocket will lift up at a certain point, the sort of side, and I apologize for not knowing the terminology. I am not somebody who is like well versed in aerospace. Obviously, as a kid, everybody like myself wanted to be an astronaut. So it's like, I have a general idea of some of this stuff, but all things considered, those side thrusters kind of peeling off first as well. One of the things I like about this is it's not like it comes apart all at the same time, like everything kind of expands off of the center, but it actually comes off in stages, right? So you get the side thrusters sort of peeling off first, and then as the rocket continues to elevate, then the top of the rocket actually lifts away from the body, and that's really cool. And they all continue to rise as well. Like it's a really lovely system, and I think I have a general idea of how this functions, but overall it's lovely. However, there is something I think that does suffer about this, in that it seems to be just a rocket facade, meaning that at least for the main body, the main fuel tank there in the center, right? It's only the front face of it, right? Which is unfortunate. I'm sure it's because, well, for one, to keep the parts down, right? But also for being able to attach certain things to make sure everything works as intended in as few parts as possible. So like, I get it. It is definitely possible to get like two of this set to build it more in full. And honestly, I don't even think that's strictly necessary because it's only a handful of pieces here that you would need to really cap off that rocket for like a true standalone display, right? Primarily, the colors that you see here, black and white are obvious, of course, but dark orange. I think this is the first time we will have ever seen dark orange in Technic. This is kind of a trend we've been seeing recently. Last year, we got sand blue in a little underwater set, and now we're getting dark orange. Also, as a Bionicle enthusiast, these are big colors to me because these are both colors used in 2001. In terms of what I can see here, it looks like it is only one lift arm in dark orange, a 7-length lift arm. But again, I'm not going to complain about that too much. The fact that we're getting anything at all is great. And it does feel like we're being at least a little bit spoiled, but I do hope that this is an introduction to dark orange because it is such a lovely color, honestly. And truly, I hope that we get more of this color from Technic in the future. It's the same with like dark green. It seems like there's this hesitancy with dark green and dark red in Technic, even though so many classic cars use that color. And like with such a heavy emphasis on cars these days in Technic, it feels like now is the opportunity to introduce those colors into Technic. We have so much dark blue, but let's go ahead and move on from here. This isn't an actual critique of the builds themselves necessarily, but I will have some questions because there's definitely some questionable things, notably this thing here. I am not a big fan of color vomit. Now, I will say I'm not familiar with the source material, so maybe this is fairly accurate to this vehicle, or if this vehicle's library is just sort of fictional, right, for this game, Asphalt Legends, whatever the case may be, if it's not representing a real life car, yeah, it's ugly to me, I'm going to be honest, but that's me. right? If you like something like this, then hey, more power to you. I do at least see some new parts in this set, notably this little like wing, I don't know what to call this, A-pillar off to the side here. It's a very interesting piece. It looks like it's going to be offset by, I can't say for certain if that is 2 studs thick, like so it's slanting over. I don't know. I don't have the piece in hand. In terms of other new parts here, though, honestly, I don't know that there are that many. This piece in the front in blue here might be a recolor of an existing piece I'm familiar with, but it might be a new piece. I honestly don't know. And outside of that, I can't tell you if too much of this stuff is recolors because I'm not primarily as interested in blue and red because we have a lot of Technic parts in blue and in red. And I think this is standard blue as well, just based on the pin here, which we know will be blue, and the panel's looking to be the same color. But let's go ahead and move on from there. Now we have the Bugatti Chiron, and this looks lovely. Of course, the build for this looks really good. It's really shapely for this. I've seen the backside of this as well. Only pulled up a couple images. I think just one image actually for this set. But again, reddish orange. Love to see it here. I don't know if any of these parts are going to be new in that color. We did just recently get a Bronco set that used this as a primary color, and that obviously had a lot of pieces in it. I think maybe like the wheel arches here at the very least are going to be new. Probably some of these panels, but honestly, maybe even some of the Technic here. Base pieces, right? Not just panels. So who's to say? I have not studied the Bronco set enough to know what exactly is new here. But obviously it's great to see, especially when a new color is introduced to Technic, so much emphasis on expanding its parts portfolio in that color, right? So I love to see it with this. It's like a handful of years ago when we started getting a bunch of magenta pieces in Technic sets kind of spread throughout. It wasn't like a crazy amount. Like it'd be hard, you'd be hard pressed to build something in magenta in Technic, but I think that's part of the challenge, part of the fun, right? Of course, let's go ahead and move on from here. Now we have this GT40 Ford set. I'm not a big fan of this. This feels overly blocky to me for a GT. They're fairly smooth vehicles in their design. Obviously black here, it's fine, it makes sense for the vehicle, but also this set I think is going to be like $75. I did not look for the price on all of these, by the way, but if this is going to be the new standard for these sets going forward, this is the same size as the other car transport vehicles, right? So it's about 750, 800-ish pieces here. That means that that's about a $25 jump. That's a 50% jump in price, right? For a long time, we've been being spoiled on those vehicles, getting a lot of pieces for very few dollars in. So like it was only a matter of time, but I would have rather seen, you know, it jump to $60, not $75 right away. So not great. Makes me think the Bugatti's probably also going to be 75, but hopefully, you know, we get lucky on at least one of them. But we have another car for that series as well. This one I'm hoping will be cheaper, if only because we just recently got a Jeep only a few years ago, I think, in yellow, and now we're getting one in dark turquoise. Now, obviously, dark turquoise, another fan favorite color, especially to Bionicle fans, another color that was used in 2001 in Bionicle as well. So again, always lovely to see parts in this color, and especially new recolors here. And I think there are several recolors in the set, notably this little macaroni piece here, this, you know, quarter round piece, I think is new in that dark turquoise color. There's a axle with a pinhole on it here that is, I think, new in this dark turquoise as well. This thin 5-length lift arm, probably some of the other stuff in here as well. Turquoise was a color that was pretty heavily used in Technic back in like the late 90s, so I can't say for certain what of the lift arms might be new here. But at the very least, you know, panels and things like that, a lot of that stuff's going to be new as well. I think this 5-length panel in the front might be new here in this color. Might even be new. I'm not, well, no, it's a recent piece. But I think it has been out at least, like, I don't know if it's been a full year or maybe just 6 months. I'm not positive. It also looks like there's probably going to be suspension on here. It looks like it might be like pendular or something like that in the middle. I'm not positive. Or live axle, I guess, whatever, right? And probably I have to imagine steering. I would think, since there are no obvious gears here, though there could be one in the back, it might be steered from the back tire there. I'm not a big fan of that, but I understand why it's done. Obviously, it makes the gear just blend into the vehicle because it's just a wheel, right? So let's go ahead and move on. Again, I like this one a lot. I'm always a big fan of very small sets. It's always fun to see what Lego is able to pack into. I mean, I've got one here, for example. I didn't even plan this. What Lego is able to pack into these small sets. And like this one here, for example, which I think is like 2 years old now. Maybe it's just last year. I honestly don't remember. Is a little snow groomer thing. And it's got 3 functions in this small of a package, and it can roll as well. I've modified this to have more, but like 3 functions for a $10 set when it came out, or maybe it was 12 or 13, I don't remember. Somewhere falling in that range, right? Is a lot. And this set, I think, actually beats that in terms of functionality. Now, I'm kind of a stickler with my definitions when it comes to functions versus features. When I consider something a function, I usually consider it being a complex linkage or something that's driven by a gear. So in my world, in my definitions, I would say the set has one true function. I could conceivably accept 2 because there are 2 knobs that you turn for certain things. But in terms of functions and features, just to keep things simple, it has articulated steering. Now that steering is not geared from what I can tell, which is unfortunate. Also, it looks to be attached to a friction pin here as well, which means it actually might be kind of hard to steer this, which is not ideal. I would have preferred to have seen this geared. Of course, I think incorporating a small turntable into this set really would have pushed this much further, honestly. But again, there are some difficulties with that, so I understand why it is the way it is. Still, the fact that there's any steering at all, obviously good. Not everything small has steering. It also, though, has suspension on it as well. Very basic suspension. From images that I have seen, it is on friction pins, so the wheels aren't just going to flop around on their own. There's going to be a little bit of friction to them when they move up and down, but as the middle wheel moves up, the front wheel is going to move down to accommodate for that, which makes sense. It's a very common type of steering for a lot of Lego Technic builds, especially on the smaller scale like this. A previous John Deere set, the one that I reviewed in a previous video, actually uses this exact suspension in the trailer that it pulls behind the tractor. So that's pretty cool, right? With that being said, the boom arm can raise and lower. That's geared, so that is our true function to me. Then you've got a little axle here. When you push up on that axle, the boom will bend at the knuckle in the same way, right? No mechanical advantage or anything like that. No ratios here. It's just 1-to-1. So that works, right? It makes sense. And then you've also got rotation of the jaws in the front here, and you can open and close the jaws as well. They're not geared at all. They're all with friction, so all makes sense. But that's really cool. You know, there's a lot going on in this set, and I'm very happy for it overall. Not to mention, too, the brown lift arm here. That might actually be a recolor of that lift arm. I honestly don't know. I know there's a brown CCBS set, handful, like 10 years ago at this point now. So I have that set. I'd have to look back at it to see if this is truly a recolor or not. But again, always nice to see. And then also these quarter ellipses, the 3x5 quarter ellipses in green, are rare. They came out, I think, in one set ever in the early either 2000s or late 90s. And I think the mold may have even been slightly different back then as well. I could be wrong, though. So yeah, very good to see. And from what I can tell from the price here, now this is a licensed set, but I estimate this is going to be the $10 set, with another one we're going to look at in a few moments being the $13 set, just because it has more pieces. But it's unlicensed, so maybe I have this backwards. We'll see. Anyway, this is a view of it from the back. There's no reason to show this, but I do plan on building this before it comes out because I just enjoy doing that. Let's go ahead and move on from here. Now we're getting into the Monster Jam sets, and yes, Monster Jam sets have returned. Always good to see. Seem like a very good collaboration for Lego, and these have always been a pretty good value in the past as well. I think the price of them has jumped in more recent memory, but even so, I'm not like super excited about this one in particular. I think it's fine. I can't tell what shade of blue that is. It is messing with my eyes, and from this angle it's very hard for me to tell. I'd have to see it from the other side to compare it against the blue in the set, but it feels saturated incorrectly, like something feels off about it. But it does also feel off about this. So I'm going to assume that that's standard blue, and then this is probably orange. Maybe it's Keat orange, bright light orange, whatever. I'm not positive either way. So not super exciting, but I'm not going to complain. However, this set is interesting. I mentioned color vomit earlier in the video, and I don't like it. Here, it's more acceptable. For one thing, this is trying to replicate a existing vehicle, so it makes a lot more sense because the real life vehicle has a lot of colors. But also, in particular, remember what I said at the beginning of this video about loving to get new pieces in new colors. This is, from what I can tell, the first ever lift arm that we will see in bright pink. That's really good. It's a 5-length lift arm. There are 3 of them on the front of the set, which is decent. It's better than 1, right? I think that's the only lift arm in that color in the set, except for if you consider these lift arms. I consider them a pin bushing is what I call them, but whatever, to each their own, right? The number 4 angle connector here in pink, also going to be new as far as I can tell, and all of the panels in pink, as well as I believe the purple panels here. I think those are also new, and these magenta panels. There's a lot of new stuff in the set, not to mention the wheels. Purple, I'm pretty positive, alliteration, is a new color for these as well. Some of these little wispy pieces, I believe, are new recolors. I'm not sure what this piece is here, this bigger curl, because it's not those wisps. So it's something else. Maybe it's a minifigure accessory. I honestly don't know. And then you've got flip-flop beams, which I think are blue here. Not positive if those are new. Don't think they are, but I don't know the length of them. So maybe. So all things considered, this is a really interesting set. I'm definitely going to look into the set at the very least. I don't know if I'll get it, but at the very least, if it does have a lot of exciting stuff in it, hey, maybe. Also, didn't think to mention, on the roof there, that looks like that is that new 4-angle. Oh gosh, what do I even call that piece? It's a straight line, an inline connector with a V set of connectors in it that are like a really strange angle. It's a very interesting piece. It's a piece I'd love to have in my collection, right? It's not uncommon these days either. It's been in a lot of recent Technic sets ever since it showed up. But still, really cool to see. All right, let's go ahead and move on from here. You have this set, which is the yellow motorbike. Now, this is very similar to a motorcycle set that we had just a couple years ago, so it's not exciting in that regard. However, this is a very cheap way to get the new cams and pistons, so it is still a good parts pack overall. Not to mention these elliptical panel pieces. I think they're not the most common yellow yet, so getting those here is also nice. You know, maybe I'm wrong about that, and, you know, whatever in that case. But yeah, it looks fine. It's generally fine. And it is significantly different in its color and different enough in its design that compared to the previous motorcycle of this scale, it'd be fine, you know, to have both. So I'm not going to complain too much. Like I said, not as inspired as some of the other things we've seen, but who cares, right? Next up, we have the Porsche Rexy. This is, again, representing a real-life car. A lot of livery on this. All seems to be stickers. I don't know if I see any prints on this set, which is fine. I don't really care as much for prints. However, the one thing I'm curious about with this set, I'm not positive if this is bright green or if this is standard green. And when I say standard green, I'm referring to like Mata green, if you're familiar. It's sort of the base color green that Lego used for a very long time. Probably still is kind of their base to this day. The reason I say that, though, is because the little bar piece in this set here, right here and a couple other places as well, that exists in bright green. I don't think it exists currently in standard green. So it makes me think that this set is probably bright green. If it is, this is a huge set for bright green because this is a lot of parts in that color. That color was, quote, exclusive to a 24 Hours Le Mans set that came out probably also like near 10 years ago at this point. And it's been used very sparingly in some other Technic sets, especially recently. I think it's appeared in like 2 other sets more recently. But now to have a full set dedicated to that color is big, because it means we're going to get a lot of parts in that color for the first time. So I'm very excited for this. Great parts pack. Flex axles in that color. I'm a big fan of this color too, and it was never used in Bionicle's first generation. So seeing it here, obviously, of course, I want to use it in a Bionicle build, but that's just me. I don't know what's going on the bottom here, though. Like, this feels like this is a function of some kind, but I don't know what it is, right? Like, first off, I don't see a steering wheel here at all. But I see this gearing, obviously. What is going on? Does anybody know what this is? Is it just to jack the vehicle up, or is this what's going on in this set? I really, really don't know. And it's very fascinating to me because I saw this image and I wasn't going to pull up any others until I saw this. And I was like, oh, something's interesting about this. What's going on? What is it trying to do? I know that we got like that Dom's Dodge Charger a few years back, and it had that system where it could do like a wheelie or whatever. Obviously, this isn't that, but what is it doing? Is it just to jack up the vehicle? Because if that's the case, like, it's not very high here, right? Or is that something else? Is it supposed to represent something in the real vehicle? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not well informed with this type of stuff. But that's part of the fun. I think it's speculation. There's a lot of fun in speculating. I literally call this, when I do this stuff, I call it Technic speculation, tech spec, right? And the reason I call it that is because there's a lot of fun to be had, in my opinion, when it comes to speculating not only on the new builds, but how certain things are accomplished. One of my favorite challenges to do outside of Bionicle is to grab Technic sets when they're first revealed, but not released to the public yet, and then try to rebuild them. And that's a lot of fun because it can teach you a lot. And it can also show you how you might get things right, you might get things wrong, and where you can kind of take steps in the future to learn from that. Because I think that's the other thing too, is when you get it wrong, first off, when you build the set before it's released, you have like this incentive to then buy this set when it comes out. Or if not buy it, at least like research the set extensively to find out, hey, did I get this right? You know, it's like taking a test and wanting to find the results, right? And so when you find out you got it right, obviously it feels good, but even better, when you find out you got it wrong, it's like you remember what you got wrong and how it was accomplished the way Lego did it. And what I like about that is it just helps me file away those techniques better than if I were to just discover them myself, or if I got it right. Because if I got it right, it's like, oh, this is cool, and I feel proud of myself, sure. But also it's like, I didn't learn anything from this because I got it right the first time. Whereas when I make a mistake, and I don't even know if calling it a mistake is correct, right? You're working off of limited information, which is part of the fun. But when it's not quite enough, when it's not quite there, it feels really good to know the correct answer and how it was approached, how it was achieved, because there's so much that you can learn from that that's valuable, I think. You know what I mean? So overall, I think that's everything. Yes, that is everything that has been revealed that I have been able to find. Been difficult to find sources for all these images that are high quality and all in the same place rather. Like Lego.com, I think only has like 6 of them revealed for some reason. Eventually, I'm sure they'll come out with more. But overall, yeah, I'm very happy with what I see. And I think this is exceptionally good news for people who want to do like pick-a-brick stuff, because it means that these parts are going to be accessible just to buy, right? When it comes to the Artemis set, yeah, you could buy 2 of that rocket, then complete it on both sides, or you could just pick a brick those parts and then just throw the parts on the backside, or swap out the dark orange for something you maybe have more of in those colors, right? So you can complete the rocket that way, because white's not a terribly uncommon color, but dark orange will be for Technic, right? So yeah, a lot of fun to be had here. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like I said, be sure to subscribe. Let me know what your favorite Technic set for 2026 is so far that you have seen, and what you're looking forward to the most, or what you're most excited to see me build, I guess. And then also be sure to like, and I guess that's everything I got to say. Let me know if I missed any sets. Anyway, take care.